Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
At Midway USA, we put customers first. The Nitro Express shipping system is icing on the cake. It was a big investment of time and money to take super fast, low-cost shipping to a whole new level. The Nitro Express helps ensure same-day shipping and low shipping costs. We hope you enjoy the Nitro Express. We built it just for you. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com.
I'm Larry Potterfield with Midway USA. Thanks for your business.
For almost 50 years, Midway USA has been America's go-to source for just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Go to MidwayUSA.com to see our latest deals and promotions and take advantage of our super fast same-day shipping. If you need a cooler, a new fishing rod, another rifle, ammo, or a reloading press, you can find it all at MidwayUSA.com. Thanks for your business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bow Hunter Chronicles Podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. Well, at least here in Michigan, we are on the cusp of turkey season. So I hope you guys are all out there. If you're not in Michigan or if you're getting ready, getting everything dialed in for turkey, definitely on the mind here, ready to get back out and get hunting, messing around with a bunch of cameras, doing some filming and stuff, and looking forward to getting out there and getting outdoors. But this week, this podcast, we're talking about gear versus deer. I wanted to talk to Jace. I haven't done a podcast in a while with just addressing gear and like some of the stuff that's coming out. We kind of talk about whether things are becoming stagnant, if we think that there's going to be any more, if we're leaning too heavily into like technology versus like skills or innovation in products. So great guy to talk about some of this stuff with. Again, if you are looking to upgrade any gear, now being turkey season is a time for boots, clothing, any of that stuff to get out there and try it, put it through its paces before we get into deer season. And, you know, we say that like, oh, you know, we're just getting into turkey season, we're going to get started. But for us, it goes turkey, then tack, and then all of a sudden you're into preseason scouting, you're into, you know, if you're going out of state for any of the velvet hunts, for bear, for anything. So this is really the kickoff to like our hunting season, the thing that kind of drives our lives. So it's a great time to get out there and test some of this gear, especially if you're like us and going to get a little bit more serious into filming, stuff like that. It's a great time to get out there and do that. But speaking of that, if you've been following along with the Painted Arrow guys, and they've got the new shotgun mount, looking at some of their stuff, that's a great product for the turkey season. We've got one coming for over on the Rome project, and looking forward to checking that out. And you can use code BHC15 to save on that over at Painted Arrow. Latitude still has some of their clearance stuff going on. Latitude, you can use code BHC. Was working, wasn't working, was working on the clearance stuff. So give it a shot anyways while you're there. Big shot targets, you can save 10% with BCP. And a big shout out still to our friends over at Canadi Zinger, Genesis 3D. He's got a code for the Patreons. But yeah, and I haven't forgot about the first quarter giveaway. It's just been crazy with the Bowman's Club dinner. So if you're in the area, if you've ever thought about checking out the Bowman's Club, any of that sort of thing, get over here, help us raise money for the MB Archery Foundation, helps to sponsor youth archery programs in the West Michigan area. That event is coming up April 26th, I believe. Yeah, that's coming up April 26th. So definitely head on over and check that out. So this podcast, you guys are going to enjoy it. It's fun. Talking about gear, talking about deer hunting and getting more focused on deer versus gear, and just some of the new stuff that's been coming out. So as always, thanks for listening. All right, everybody. Adam back with another episode of the Bow Hunter Chronicles Podcast. And today I'm here with Jayce Ostrowski. I've always known, and I think the stuff like pops up on my feed still sometimes as like Pollock Outdoors. And it's Michigan Great Outdoors. And we're going to do just a little bit of BSing, but I want to do some gear talk. Haven't had a nice gear conversation in a while. But we'll kind of get through who Jace is and kind of why he's on here today. But how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, the Pollock Outdoors thing. How Polish are you?
So my great grandparents came from Poland. So they came from the boat, went through Ellis Island, did all that stuff. So growing up, my grandma, she was really into the Polish heritage, and my uncles. I have 5 uncles. So, and I spent most of my time with them, my grandma, because I didn't have a father around, so I spent most of my time at my grandparents while my mom was single and working. So, that was just the Polish heritage. And my uncles, when they used to go up to Gaylord for deer season, they used to do this thing called the opening day report, and it was with Yash and Stash, and they had this old giant camera. And so when they would do this, just every opening day, they would have this Polish accent, and they'd kind of do this little thing. So, I got some of my buddies were talking like, yeah, you should do YouTube, film your hunts. And, I thought, well, I'll call it Pollock Outdoors. And that's where it started. So I created a Facebook page because I wanted to keep my personal life kind of separate between the YouTube and stuff, which ultimately I think was probably a bad idea because it kind of it's better to kind of put a face and be real of who you are. But I had the Pollock Outdoors. And then I ended up changing it to Michigan Great Outdoors. And the reason for the name change was just to try to just be more open and for Michigan. Cause I don't, at the time I wasn't hunting much out of state. So it was like hunting and fishing in Michigan. And then calling somebody a Pollock is kind of technically a slur. So my buddy, who was an Army Ranger, he was big into growing businesses. And he's like, you're never going to grow this as Pollock Outdoors. You should change it. So after some thought, I changed it to Michigan Great Outdoors, and it's been good ever since. So, but I still have that Pollock Outdoors Facebook, and that's what when I go on the gear groups and BS on there, that's what I'm under.
Yeah, I had to ask. My uncle will probably kill me because I would say I'm about equally as Polish as you. Like I'm at least 1/8 Polish. Like my grandma's last name was Andrzejczyk. Like I never met her. She died before I was born, but like same deal, like first generation here. And I don't know if she's half or full Polish or whatever. So that's where I say my uncle would kill me. But like I can relate to the to the name and all that. And my wife, her dad's same thing, and he's same thing. Everything's Pollock, blah, 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 dumb
yeah.
Pollock. Like, so, it kind of resonates with me. And then, I must say, like, I didn't, again, like I didn't put like 2 and 2 together because like the Michigan, Great Outdoors, like page and like the memes and stuff. Like I always look at those and I'm like, who does that? Like, who's the guy behind those? Cause those are freaking hilarious. And I guess I will just say like, we'll get to it like at the end with like your channel and whatnot. But I think you're right, hovering right just under 10,000 subs. So get over there and, sub.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't been the most consistent lately. Just because of life getting in the way. I'm married, I have a wife, wonderful wife, and 3 boys, and just, life happens. And I always say, I'm going to pump out these videos 2-3 a week, and it never happens. So I'm trying to get back to like consistent, like putting out. And even on Instagram, I haven't really been posting much lately, but there's kind of that lull after. I'm in that, post deer season lull. I was doing some bunch of postseason scouting. I haven't even shed hunted this year. And then I just got done watching the Masters tournament, so I kind of want to go out and play golf now. So,
so you said you didn't have a dad around. You grew up with your uncles, and they had like sounds like a pretty good like deer hunting heritage. So, like, what was your growing up like as far as like in the hunting, like being introduced to it, and then like the style and like where you learned and all that?
Yeah, so I didn't have a father present, but I had 5 uncles. two of which were diehard deer hunters, bow hunters. And then my grandfather was a big hunter. And every year they'd go up to Pigeon River Country in Gaylord for 2 weeks. They would take the week before gun season and then the week of. And they had a camper and they would go up. And, I used to hear about these stories, these incredible stories. And, they were decent hunters. Every once in a while my uncles would shoot pretty nice buck, especially for Michigan. They got 3 or 4 really big ones for public land standards. But, I was getting really geared up for that. So I was really stoked to try to just be invited. And I was going to be able to do it when I turned 12. And that was the first year they stopped going because my grandfather just started getting too old and I wasn't able to go. Fortunately, my Uncle Rob, who's probably the closest father figure I have, he took me out bow hunting down here. So I live around the Ann Arbor area. And I hunt a lot of public currently down here. And he took me out to some public land and it was amazing. He took me out on a bow hunt. I remember we walked in the morning. It was November. It was cold. I was 11 years old. I was just observing. And then he took me to this stand. Back in the day, we had these old wooden stands that one of our buddies, Denny, he would make. And he would put them up in the season. He'd put them up all over the public land. And, if you wanted to use it and he wasn't planning on hunting there, you could go sit it. He didn't care. So we both went out and on this little micro point and we sat there and I think we saw 5 or 6 deer and I saw my first buck walk by and I was just hooked. I was like, this is so freaking cool. And we were out in the swamp, in November when the sun was coming up and it was cool. There was a frost and I just remember looking across the lake, the steam was coming up and I was just it was like heaven. I was like, this is where I should be. And that's kind of my love for the swamp started that first time when I was 11. And then it continued to grow into the next year I started hunting with a bow. I had a Golden Eagle Predator, those Easton XL 75 arrows that you gotta lob them in because they're so freaking heavy. And I started hunting with him and didn't have a lot of success. When you're 12, you don't really know what you're doing. But then I went on a hunt with him and he shot a buck. We were both in the tree and just being there, I actually called the deer in and because he didn't know it, he was faced out this way towards the swamp and I saw the deer coming through the hardwoods and I grunted it in and the deer came in perfect. It was, it was a decent 8. It wasn't huge, but he got up and in one fluid motion standing up, he grabbed his bow, drew back, and he shot this thing. And to this day, I can still see it in slow-mo, that arrow impacting that deer and the ripple on the flesh. And that deer ran off and it ran about 40 yards and it stopped and it took a deep breath and it just collapsed. And it was just those 2 moments are just forever etched into my mind. And I was just hooked. I was just this is what I want to do with my spare time.
And so it sounds like you were indoctrinated into hunting public land in the swamps. Let's talk about one of the things I think I want to get into this season when I talk to guys is I want to hear about your first deer, the first deer you shot with a bow and that scenario. And then what got you hooked or when you turned the corner to be oh, I want to chase bigger deer.
Okay. Well, so yeah, we were hunting swamp edges and when I was younger, we were very much mobile hunters. Now we had some permanent sets that we would put up, but we also had some very small aluminum stands. I think they were Loggy Bayou ultralights or something. It was a very lightweight stand. It was 5 or 6 pounds. It wasn't the nicer stands that we have now, but it was good enough to get up in a tree. And we had the old screw-in steps, and I think for a couple years they were legal on public. And then we went to strap-on steps, where it was actually a cable. It's like a regular stick, but it was just one step. I think I can't remember who made them, but so we had a little pouch, and I would put my steps in there, and I would just go try different areas. And when I was really young, I was pretty scared of the dark, and that was one thing I didn't bring up to my uncle because we were close, but we weren't that close. And so I wouldn't venture that far out. I'd get on the edge, I'd find a trail and sit it. And, I had some success, but, there was several years I hunted and went out, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of fumbling around, and my uncle, he was probably like in his late 30s at the time. And I think he was trying to kind of figure stuff out himself. So he was taking me out and, and allowing me to come out with him and, making sure I was safe and things like that. But I think he was kind of trying to figure out the deer in the area himself. So we kind of were doing our own thing, but he would always he'd take me out and he'd say, okay, you go over here and I'll get you at dark or something. You meet me right here. And I wouldn't go too far. And then as I started getting a little bit older, I was 15 when I shot my first buck, which was actually on the youth hunt, and I used a rifle up in Indian River. My uncle has some property up there, and that was a private land hunt. I shot my first buck, and that was cool. I mean, it was like a 50, 60-yard shot, so it wasn't like up close and personal, but it was still really incredible. It was a 5-pointer and perfect shot. And then it was that very next year. So I was 15. Back in those days, you had to be 15 to rifle hunt. And then it was the next year I was 16 and I shot my first buck on public land in Michigan. And to this day, it's probably the best shot I've ever made on a deer. I was hunting right on the edge, right on the transition line. And there was a heavy acorn flat. And to this day, I still hunt the area. To this day, I still hunt very, very close to, back actually in 21, I shot a really nice buck on the same oak flat. But that particular morning I was hunting, I hung my stand. I was actually just fighting boredom because I used to get so bored when I was a kid. I would get so amped up to go. And then it'd be like, my uncle would always say, we're going to hunt till 11:30 or noon. And, I'd see him coming because he'd go further than me. So I think I was sitting there and it was like 9:30 or 10 and I was fighting boredom. And I just kind of looked and I saw this deer coming and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a buck. And back then in those days, it was like, you're 16, you don't care what it is. As long as it's got legal antlers, you're sending it. So it was coming in and I had practiced so much with shooting my bow. I was, that was all I did as a kid really was just archery. So I just drew back and I had a index release and this deer, I don't know what I was doing. He was walking at a nice clip and I was just kind of leading him like almost like shooting a duck. I was kind of just leading him a little bit. And I shot the arrow and I saw it hit him and he ran back into the swamp. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I think I got him. And I waited for my uncle because he told me, if you shoot one, wait. So I waited. He came over. We got down. We walked to the spot. And he's like, and I told him, I said, I shot this deer. And he's like, well, where? And I was like, oh, back over here. So we go and we're standing there. And he's like, dude, you did not shoot this deer here. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And he's like, that's like 35 yards. And it's with this old Golden Eagle bow with those big, heavy, like 600 grain arrows. And I was like, no, dude, I smoked him. And we walked like 10 yards and it was just like a bloodbath. And we found that deer. And that was my first buck with a bow. And it was, to this day, he still brings it up when we talk about deer. He's like, I can't believe he made that shot. Especially those, 1.5-year-old deers. They're so small. When you aim on them, they're tiny. So, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that, for me, hunting has always been like a group thing or like having someone to share it with, and it sounds like with you and your uncle, like you guys, it doesn't, at this point, like the shots, what mattered, like the recoveries, what mattered, going out there and like sharing that experience and then him, not believing you and all this, everything that went into that is just, what I really enjoy like about the sport of hunting is the camaraderie. And I think we get to see like a lot of like the bad stuff from social media and all of that. But at the same time, like if you just remove all of that and you just go out in the woods with your buddies and somebody shoots something, it doesn't like, at least in the group of people that I hang around with and the people that I enjoy being around, like there's nothing better than that tailgate beer over a fawn, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, that's so true. And I remember we pulled that deer out and then we took all our stuff. We went back to the truck. And at the time, his best friend, Jamie, he's another guy we still hunt with. He's like family. He was at the parking lot. Another guy, Denny, Randy, there was, I think one of their sons. And every time it was like, we'd come back to the parking lot and we'd bullshit for 2 hours. And it was like, I remember being a young kid and like the stories that they would tell. And it was just like, Yeah, I'm totally that guy where like deer camp means something to me. I'm bummed out that I never got to share it with my grandfather, because I guess like he was a totally different person when he went to deer camp. Like at home, he was kind of stern and like you didn't want to mess with him. But at like deer camp, he turned into this different kind of guy. And I'm bummed to miss that. But at the same time, like there's so many good memories with, my great uncles, sharing camps with them, tent hunting in November in Pigeon River. We've done that a bunch of times. So, I'm very much into the camaraderie aspect of deer hunting. And that's really one of the things with my kids is, I got 3 boys and they're going to hopefully all hunt. And I'm trying to instill that, that deer camp mentality.
Sure. Now, you said that was just and I guess I shouldn't even say it like that. That was like a 1.5-year old buck, and really awesome. Where, like, so this year I think it was this year, you shot a buck that you'd been chasing for like a couple years, and big deal, right? At what point did you?
Hunting is not easy. It never has been. It takes dedication, motivation, a lot of patience, and quality gear. If you manage a food plot, put up stands, or need just one more game camera, we can help at MidwayUSA.com. We opened our doors in 1977 and continue to put customers first by offering super fast, same-day shipping. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com.
Explore historic waterways in 2025 with Scenic on the most inclusive cruise on Europe's rivers. Enjoy up to 5 dining experiences, spacious suites, and butler service. Be immersed in the culture with enriching free choice excursions and exclusive events. Scenic, in a class of its own. Book now and save.
Start to target bigger deer. You said your uncles had killed bigger deer, but it didn't really sound like they had it all figured out. Like that's what they were going after. So for you, what made you like transition into like hunting specific deer, or like trying to have like a bigger age class animal?
There was a pretty big lull. Like I killed a lot of deer from, when I was 16 to like, I don't know, 30 or 28 or something. I killed a lot of deer, a lot of small deer, 6-pointers, 7-pointers, does. I would always take does once they opened up does to Michigan. My uncle started having better success. There was a period in there where we mobile hunted a lot. Like we were mobile hunters before mobile hunting became cool. Like we would just, because we had those super light stands, we had those strap-on steps, we would just go and hunt different areas. You find a scrape, you find some rubs. Knowing what I know now, the timing was all off, and we were probably hunting a lot of nighttime sign. But we would just, focus on moving around. And then there was, I don't know, probably around I was like 18 or 19, we kind of shifted to the Outdoor Network style, where we were watching way too much Bill Jordan and Night and Hale and all those guys. And it was like hunting these, hunt the funnels, hunt the pinch points, and find the best spot on the property and just bang it out. Like sit there 30 days in a row until you get your opportunity. And you're going to get your opportunity, but I don't know if you know about it, but it's just miserable. It's miserable sitting in the same stand. And we did that for like 10 years. We got sucked into this, hunting, just preset stands. And especially on public, where at the time that public was very pressured, and everybody kind of had their little areas like, oh, Jim's hunts over here and Bill hunts over here, so it's like you kind of stay out of certain people's areas. And, my uncle killed some good bucks. I started to, I don't know when it was. I don't know if I was like, fast forward till I was like 25 or something. Cause there was a period in there where I was, partying, chasing the girls. I wasn't hunting as hard, but it was probably around 24, 25. I got more serious about like, hey, we're hunting these swamp edges and we're hunting these funnels. And I started to question things more. I'm like, why are we not in the swamp? Like we've had success out in the swamp when I was 12, when I was 13, we'd go out there more. And my uncle's like, well, that's where they're bedding and we don't want to disturb that. We want to keep them in that swamp. And I was like, dude, this thing's huge. Like we could figure some stuff out. So my uncle's like, well, it's public land, go for it. And so that year, I went to that same point that me and him went when I was 11, and the tree that was there was no longer there. This is like, 10 or 15 years later. And there was this new maple. And I was like, man, that would be a good spot eventually. That maple's a little too small. So I kind of went over across the bowl into this other spot and I hung a preset. And that year I had so many encounters with deer and a better age class of bucks. And that was the first year I realized, I'm like, dude, you got to be out here in the swamp, because these bucks would come in and you'd see them like later, especially on mornings hunts. I would see them like later, like 10 o'clock in the morning. And they're just so gingerly walking around. They're not pressured like they would be in the hardwoods. They're not like antsy. If you got the wind right and you didn't lay a bunch of scent down walking in, like they're just out there like, and maybe they were already bedded and they kind of just shift their bed or something. I wasn't in tune to the bedding as I am now, but we just, I just started hunting in these swamps a little more. And my uncle, he was kind of staying over in his area, but he was still having some good encounters. But I was having more encounters and more consistent encounters. And that was a period of time where baiting was still legal. And I would actually bait in the swamp. And I ran a camera out there. And this is pretty wet stuff. So you'd have to wear knee-high boots and get back there. And I would lay down corn piles, legally you can only put out so much, but I'd put corn piles out and I'd put a camera out, and I started getting these huge deer on camera. Like, it was mostly night, but I'm showing these pictures to my uncle. I'm like, man, they're here. They're like, these deer are here somewhere. And he was like, well, he's like, just stick with it. And I found that baiting in the swamp, it brings big bucks in the rut. Because if you get that bait going, they'll consistently hit it, and then those bucks will start coming in there later in the rut. And I started having some really unique encounters with some big deer. I missed several of them, big giant 8, a big 10. That was probably like my evolution as far as like becoming a better hunter was improving. But my one thing that I didn't do is I didn't upgrade my gear. Like, I was still hunting with that old Golden Eagle bow. I didn't even have a rangefinder, and I was like 25 at this point. And I kept misjudging deer. I wasn't practicing probably as much. And there was one year in particular, I missed like a 140s 8, and I missed like a 150s 10 like the next day. And I was just like, I'm so done. Like, I got to get a new bow. Like, I got to shoot better. Like, I need to get a rangefinder. And so I did that next year. I actually bought my first Matthews bow, bought a rangefinder, and then like my killing percentage, I guess you could say, just like tripled as far as, I wasn't missing deer anymore. But one thing that changed, it was the same year that the baiting ban happened. And I don't know, I might be getting my years, wrong, but it was somewhere right around in there that they banned baiting. And, I was really kind of using that bait to learn how deer were moving. And then when they stopped it, there was a couple years where I was kind of lost, where I was still sitting in those stands, but because I wasn't putting that corn out, I wasn't seeing as many deer. And then I wasn't having those encounters with those bigger bucks come rut. So I really kind of had to adjust. And then that's when I started to decide, well, I'm going to still go with preset stands, but I'm going to put more of them up in the swamp and kind of bounce between them. And then brings us probably to about 2018 is when I started having more success, because I wasn't hunting the same trees or the same stands all the time. And I ended up shooting a pretty nice 8-pointer in 2018.
It's interesting, and like, it kind of goes the way that I want the podcast to go. But like gear, like, so in your situation there, it sounds like it was warranted. It was a problem, or at least the lack of a rangefinder and maybe, big heavy arrows.
Yep.
Made it, and kind of a slower, older bow made judging those distances and things like that a little bit more difficult, I guess more critical. But I think today, like, in the guys that listen to the podcast and the guys from the Patreon hunt and, talking with people, and I'm sure you get it too because of all of the stuff that you do with gear, man, the marketing is really good, and people are just like, Chase, they're just like, I just need change this. I need to change this. What about that? What about this? And, it doesn't really matter like what the sport is. It's funny because one of the guys that I had said this to, he said he ran into the same thing with like motorcycles, like stunt riding. But it's like people like to identify as a hunter and a mobile hunter, and they want to know all the lingo, and they want to be able to talk about, the leeward side and buck bedding and thermals and all this stuff. And, they can tell you every spec of every Ranch Fairy video and every hunting public episode, and they can, they got Crispies on 24/7. But you ask them to go hunting and they're like, oh, the wind's going to be wrong, or like this is going to be wrong, or like whatever. And then then it's just like, well, I just need to switch this up, or I'm going to buy this. What do you think about this? And it gets really tough, and it is like part of like a marketing thing. So for you, it's just interesting to say like, oh, I needed to make a gear change, and it was in that case. So for you with like doing the presets and those old stands, and it's funny that you say that with the old stands, and because like I started with the Loggy Bayou Climber. That was my dad's. That was he had a Baker, and then he had a Loggy Bayou Climber. And then when I met my wife, her dad was hunting out of a Loggy Bayou, and he's like, you want to come hunting with me? And I'm like, sure. I got this climber of my dad's, which I actually got stuck in a tree with before because I didn't even know how to use it.
I think we all have.
And but his best friend hunted with a JanSport backpack full of screw insteps, an actual like electrical pole, a lineman's belt, and a lock-on limit. And he would just stand like the entire time. And that's just the way that he, so we kind of grew up hunting in the same like time frame and like with the same gear. But so in that 2018, I think is when you like started your YouTube channel. And I think I remember hearing you say before that, like for however the stars aligned, you ended up killing a bunch of deer on camera. And so it was a pretty cool thing. So how did the whole thing evolve with you, going down the rabbit hole of like trying all the gear, reviewing all the gear and that? And maybe are you part of the problem of telling all these people that they need new stuff?
No. I think that, and we can get to it more. I think that it's important to have good gear. It doesn't have to be the best gear, but you have to have like decent gear. And, you can hunt and kill deer out of a hawk tree stand. I firmly believe it. And I honestly thought about one year, just, I'm going to run hawk sticks and a hawk stand, and I'm going to go out and just shoot a bunch of deer just to prove that you don't have to have the best gear. But I definitely think, if you're shooting an old bow and you're shooting heavy arrows, like Ranch Fairy weights, because I weighed one the other day. It's like 680 grain arrow. That's just crazy. And, not having a rangefinder, the only way to kind of get through that is you have to shoot a lot, and you have to be like, like John Dudley, just shooting all day, or Chris B or something like that. And I wasn't doing that. So, when I upgraded my gear to that Matthews bow, it was shooting so much faster and flatter. I didn't have to practice as much, but I was so excited because I was like, this is incredible. It made me practice more. And like, I don't know about you, but like when I get a new stand or something, or a new bow, like there's that excitement, and you're just like, dude, you're looking at like the new Matthews bow or whatever you shoot, Hoyt, PSE, like even the ones now, and you're like, this thing is like a work of art. Like I want to go outside and shoot it. So I think it kind of, it's good to get new gear here and there, but I think that there's definitely guys that get so wrapped up into it, and they're so hyper focused on like this gear, it has to be quiet, and I have to have stealth strips on everything. And it's like, dude, well, you didn't even really go hunt. Like, well, just go out and hunt, man. Like you see it all the time on Facebook. There's guys killing deer off the ground. I mean, you just have to be out there, and what's most important to you? Are you a gear guy, or are you a deer guy? For my whole life, I've been a deer guy. And it's kind of funny because I talk about like how I was shooting this old bow and stuff, and then I've kind of turned into a gear guy. I'm like a gear nut, but I was one of the slowest to upgrade. I didn't, this is a funny story, is for a long time, Lone Wolf, they had the Assault 2 and the Alpha tree stands. And I don't know about you, but I used to go through Cabela's magazine. I used to see them. And during the time, they were like, I think it was like 200 for the Assault 2 and like 220 or 240 for the Alpha. And I was like, I was looking at these prices. I'm like, who the hell is buying this? Like, this is so expensive. Like, you got to be out of your mind to buy it. And I didn't know how awesome those products were. Like, I didn't know how lightweight they were and how it could have really opened you up. And back then, like, there was no Facebook pages. There was no podcast. Like, you had to find, like, you know, I guess it would be like the Hunting Beast would have been like the only thing, like the old Hunting Beast, like the original forum would have been like the only thing out there to kind of learn. Now we're at this forefront of information from like guys like you're running this podcast. There's 100 other podcasts, all these YouTube channels and different things. So there's just like this unbelievable amount of information out there. And I definitely think, like you were saying, there's some guys that get sucked into it and they're more focused on the gear than trying to use the gear to help them kill the deer.
It's interesting that you say that, because like when I, like, in the same way, like, but for me, it was like, I never, like, just because everything that we ever did and everybody that was like in my circle was always a climber. It was always a climber. And so for me, it was like, I want to say like 2011, maybe 2012. I was going through like my last year of pharmacy school, and I had like, I got to pick a block that I had off. So there's 4 blocks and I got to pick one block that I had off. So I took like, it was like Thanksgiving, or it was like Halloween to Thanksgiving, or it was like October 1st through like Christmas or whatever. So it was like, I'm going to get to hunt. Like, I haven't got to hunt. I've been in school. I was living in Chicago. And so I did the same thing. I like went through and I was like, all right. And I dropped like $400 on the Lone Wolf Climber, because I had a buddy who killed a lot of deer and he had a sit and climb, and he was like, this is the greatest thing. He showed me how it packed down. Like, you know, if you're familiar with the Loggy Bayou strap, like it was those metal bands that were like, boing, you know, and the Lone Wolf ones are, you know, covered in rubber. And so I was like, man, I'm going to buy this thing. And I was like, it was like the greatest thing, but it was like I had to drop $400 on a used one, because it was more than, it was like $450, $460 for a brand new one. So I scoured like the Craigslist. I think I bought it off Craigslist at the time.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe eBay. I don't know. But yeah, same thing. And then when I got it, I was like, this thing is so quiet compared to like, and you can get up and down the tree, and you know, you could do that with the other stands too, but it was just like a whole nother thing. And then when we started the podcast and started going to like stand and sticks, and then eventually to saddles, and this is what I tell people, like when people who don't want to make the switch to saddle hunting, is like, you have to commit. And I knew that, like, I loved that climber so much that like when we went to stand and sticks, and we went to the heavy ass XOP, like the original XOP, like 36-inch sticks with I mean, it was like 50 pounds with all your stuff. But I sold that Lone Wolf Climber because I knew that I would just go back to it. I wasn't going to give it like a fair shot. But yes, I 100% agree with what you're doing, like what you're saying. Like and I still look at the prices of some of the stuff and I just go, man, I don't know.
I know the prices are out of control. I don't know why. I mean, obviously, like some of the made in the U.S. stuff it's always going to be higher because it demands a higher wage, but you know, for the workers. But some of the pricing now, it's really going up. And then, you know, this whole, not to get too political, but the whole tariff situation, you know, there's a lot of companies, even saddle companies, that have moved stuff overseas, and now they're going to be impacted by tariffs. So I don't know what that's going to do to the industry. But we're definitely living in an age right now where like there's no excuse not to be out in the woods. Like there is the best boots, the best pants, the best camo, or if you don't like camo and you wear solids, I mean, just like the amount of stuff to keep you warm, the layering systems and the educational, you know, every company's got a YouTube channel and they're all putting out like top-notch educational stuff on how to layer their clothing and like different gloves, the sticks, the stands, the bows. Like we're at like, I don't know if it's the pinnacle of gear right now, but like there's never been an easier time, and maybe not financially because it's very expensive, a lot of it, but like there's every option imaginable. to go out and be successful in the woods. There's really not any reason why, unless you just, you know, you don't have the money.
Well, and I mean, that can go either way. Like, it's interesting that you'd said that about bows, because it's kind of, it's funny to me because, like, John, who's, you know, done the podcast with me for a long time, is like the top notch, like, bow guy. Like, he's got to have, like, everything's got to be perfect and all this stuff. And like, so when we got our bows, like, we got bows from the Johnson's Great Outdoors here, our shop, we could have picked out any bow that we wanted from Bowtech, and John got the high end one. He's on like his 5th or 6th bow since then, and I'm still shooting the same bow that I got at that same time. It was the Carbon Zion, and I got it because it was the cheapest one, and I really liked the bow and everything about it. And I like to show, like, the other side of that, where it doesn't have to be a flagship bow to still, you know, go shoot tack and shoot the moose at 140 yards and, you know, still be able to, you know, do everything that you want to do without spending, you know, like this year, like Bowtech, when they put out, I think it was the Virtue, like, that was their quote unquote, like, price point bow, and it's like $1,100. Like, in what world is that, like, the budget friendly model? You know, that's the hardest thing. And then people get sucked into that, like, and you need a new bow every year, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it's like I was just messaging with somebody, like, the sight that's on my bow right now. I shot my biggest buck ever in Ohio in like 2014 or 15 with a $300 off the shelf, ready to hunt bear bow. I swapped out the sight for a HHA sight. I shot it with a whisker biscuit, and the sight that's on my bow cost more than that entire setup, you know? So to me, it's just funny because I like to show that other side of it too, like, where you can, I guess, be like mindful with your finances and still go out and do everything that everybody else is doing, you know?
Yeah, I would think, like, if I was telling somebody new that was just getting into hunting, you know, I would go. Bear, like, makes those great combo bows. Like, you can get, like, I don't know if they're still like $300-400, but you used to be able to buy like a $400 package that came with everything. And I would say spend more of your money on, like, better layers and, like, stuff to keep you warm, you know, because that's what I've noticed. Like, that will get somebody out of the woods quicker than, you know, having a Matthews bow or having a lower end, you know, bear bow. It's like being warm, being comfortable.
Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com. Target shooters who blaze through hundreds of rounds in a weekend, or a casual shooter plinking at the range, shop Midway USA. We have a variety of 22 long rifle and other rimfire ammunition for plinking, and 12-gauge shotgun ammunition for the next sporting clays, tournament, or round of trap. Midway USA has ammunition for modern sporting rifles, as well as an industry-leading selection of traditional and classic cartridges. Stock up on handgun ammunition like 9mm, 45 ACP, and 38 Special. For just about everything for shooting, shop MidwayUSA.com.
You know, that's what I would probably, you know, tell people to spend more of their money on, or at least, you know, researching how to stay warm. And you know, we're all kind of use that buzzword now, like, oh, we're all mobile hunters, we bounce around, but, like, you know, you got to be in the tree, like, or on the ground. Like, you're not going to kill a deer if you're not in the woods. So if you're freezing cold, it's not going to matter if you have that $3,000 Matthews set up. Like, you got to be out there and have some decent gear to be able to, you know, put the time in.
Yeah, and I think I love that you brought that up because, like, for me, and maybe yourself as well, because it just seems, you know, there's a lot of parallels there. Like, the hunting part, you know, being mobile, getting out there, finding deer sign and all that stuff, you know, outside of, like, oh, we're just targeting big bucks or whatever. But I'm just talking about deer hunting in general. Mm-hmm. And if we were talking about, like, new hunters, like, in this, like, age of information, like, all of the whatever, like, saddle hunting, mobile hunting, kayak hunting, I don't know, paragliding, whatever however you can
That'll
go
be
in.
the next thing.
Well, they did there was that Matthews guy who took that, that motor deal and flew in, but, the actual layering system and I have mixed feelings like about like Ranella and the meat eater stuff. Just, I don't know. It's like too big, and I feel like there's mixed politics around it, and so I just kind of stay off of it. But I listened to like a segment of their podcast one time where they were talking about like what they took into like Alaska, or like when they did these like really, really deep hunts, and like they talked about their layering system and like the gear that they brought. And nowadays, like with the age of information and the amount of stuff, like, even from like what's happened with saddle hunting, all that stuff was DIY, and all this stuff, like the information was out there, but you had to like really, really search for it. And, now taking like the hiking and the lightweight through hiker type stuff and the alpine mountaineering stuff and bringing it into the hunting or mobile hunting, with, the merino wool and like these better base layers and, more technical gear. And you talk about budget, like I would venture to guess you've been to, the Mobile Hunters Expos, you've been to TAC, you've been to, go to a lot of the same events. What percentage of people do you think are wearing those like Wrangler all-terrain pants? Like, I mean, you talk about the best value in like, just like kind of like a technical, breathable, and that's, everybody has that. And like where back in the day, it would have been, you're out there in cotton and you're sweating and you're, all these things where like the layering and the technical, that side of the gear, I think has been like the biggest like eye opener for me.
Yeah, I would agree. And I struggled with it when I was younger. I upgraded my bow and I was seeing more deer, and I was getting on deer, and I was just like, man, I was getting so cold all the time. And I was taking, I'm always been a morning guy. I love morning hunts, and I'd go in early, and I'd be up in the tree an hour before light, and I would just be like, it would be like prime time, and I would be freezing my ass off. And I'm like, dude, like, what is going on? So I start talking to my uncle, and he was just like, well, you got to do some layering. And like, what are you wearing? I'm like, cotton, like, old long handles my grandfather gave me or something, and he was like, well, I just started using this stuff called polypropylene, and it's, it's working well for me. So like, maybe you should try it out. So that I tried to get some, but I couldn't find it. And that was like one of the, I don't know if it was like right when Under Armour was coming out, or they had like their first original base layer, and it was like army green. And I think I talked my grandma into buying it for me. And it was like the bottoms were like $70 and the tops, I think, were like $70. And dude, when I got those, it changed everything for me. Like, because you could sweat in them, and you could walk and be soaking sweat, and within like an hour that water was off you. It was on the next layer. It was warm. It was like breathable. And it's funny, to this day, I still have those base layers. They still work. The elastic in the waist is like gone, but like sometimes I'll still wear them. Like there's no holes in them or anything. Like that was the best stuff that I think Under Armour ever made. But like, that was such a game changer for me. Like when I found those base layers, it changed everything. Like it was, now in the rut, I was spending more time in the tree. And if everybody knows, you in the rut, you got to be in the tree. You got to put your time in, and I've always been an all day sit guy. And there was times where I was so miserable because of the gear. I just didn't have the proper layering. I didn't have a good coat. Or I'd have a coat and it was like so big and huge and bulky. Like you couldn't even like move your bow. Even like when you go to put your rifle up, it was like it didn't line up the right, because this coat was so huge. And it's like, you fast forward to like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, like clothing, the gear on, like you said, with mountaineering and alpine gear, like I'm a big fan of Kuiu. I run a lot of Kuiu stuff, even though it is pretty expensive, but you can get it on sale if they have multiple sales per year. But like the Kuiu layering systems and just like the materials they have with like the wind stopper and eliminating that wind is like key. Once I figured out like, okay, I got to control like my sweat, I got to control like my breathability. Like when I'm walking in, I want to have light enough stuff so I can pack most of my gear into my backpack, like all my top layers. Like even to this day, like most of the time in the morning, like I'll walk in with like this shirt, like just a long sleeve camo shirt or like a t-shirt. I have like a one that's more of like an athletic material, but like in the morning, November, like I'll walk in a t-shirt and get to the tree, hang my set, and then I'll get up there and then I'll start pulling stuff out of my backpack. I'll dry off. I'll take this shirt off and then dry all that sweat off. And, just learning how to manage your sweat, learning how to manage your gear, and then being able to, obviously as you get older, start making better money, you get out of your 20s, you can afford better gear, and it just changes everything. Like there's not a time now where like I'll look and go, oh, the weather doesn't look good, I'll probably stay home. Like I don't really like hunting in like downpours because I've done it like 100 times and I've never see crap. But like if it's like a little bit of rain or like wind, like I don't care. There's literally like no element that can stop me now, just because I've figured out the layering system and the clothing that works for me, and everybody's different. So I think,
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's funny, because you talked about like the bulk, and that for me is like what I try to explain to people about like saddle hunting and like upgrading your gear and stuff like that. You're always going to have weight. The bulk is, going to be there, like whatever. That's the thing that I'm trying to like minimize is the bulk for going, as far as you're going. But for me, the funniest part is like, I think like a merino sweater of some sort. Like I killed my biggest buck in Michigan from a Italian merino sweater from Goodwill, but it was the same material. It was 100% merino, and it was gray, and I was like, this will be fine. And I bought that in a puffy jacket. When you talk about like just walking in like light stuff, like having the ability to throw that puffy jacket on and then throw anything over it that traps that in there, that to me was the biggest thing. And like you talked about like the Cabela's catalog, and you're looking at stuff and you're being like, oh man, I like would look at the First Light ones like all the time, and I was like, $140 for like a puffy jacket. Well, I was at Walmart one day like on the clearance section, and they had like after the season they had these little tiny shitty freaking puffies, but they were like $12 on clearance, and it was like nothing to it. So I was like, well, I'm willing to gamble my $12 or $11 on this, and it was like the greatest thing ever. Like I was like, this is so cool. Warm, it didn't pack down as nice as, some of the newer ones, but it did the same thing. So I went out and I think I found like a Eddie Bauer one or something that was like half the price of the First Light one, still packed down into its pocket, all that stuff. And I used that one, and I gave the other one to my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law still thinks it's like the greatest piece of gear that he's ever had. It was this crappy little Walmart puffy. So like for me, that's the thing that was just like that eliminated that big coat. It eliminated everything, and it packs down so small. And that bit, like I say, that little bit of information, like of like watching everybody do that, but hearing them talk about like, well, I just need a rain jacket, I need an outer jacket, and I need a puffy. And if it gets too cold, I'll just put all of it on. And so like I was just like, well, that's how I'm going to run this. And, it's been very, because I don't know about you, but like my legs very rare. It has to get very, very cold for like my legs to get cold. Like my feet, my fingers, my fingers are all messed up from the Marines, but like the rest of me is like, if I can keep like my core warm, like everything is good, except for usually when I'm packing up, like my fingertips are just ready to break.
Yeah. I don't know what, I must have like a circulation thing with my hands too. Like if my hands get cold, I'm screwed. So like usually I'm pretty good. Like, I don't know if it's 40s, 30s, like I don't have to worry. Like I wear camo mechanics gloves. So actually my uncle's best friend, he was always wearing them. And I'm like, why are you wearing those mechanics gloves? And back in the day, they didn't have the camo ones. And he was like, it's all about the dexterity. Like, these things have unbelievable dexterity. He's like, try some. So he ended up buying me a pair. And so for like 20 years, that's what I've been using. Camo mechanics gloves. I like the fast fit ones. But so they're like warm enough, but you can still, like, I switched to a handheld release. Like, I've had no problems, index release, whatever. Shooting, I'm a big rifle hunter too. Like, no problem. And then, like, if it gets colder, I got to just, throw a hand muff with the hot hands. I ran those for years. And then obviously they came out with these new electric heaters that the little Zippo ones, or I think Acapulco, or there's some other like off-brand ones that people love. And like, so for me, I have to keep my fingers warm. If I don't, like, that will get me out of the tree. And like, it's totally opposite. Like with my feet, I can let my feet and toes freeze to where I can't even feel them and they go numb and it doesn't even bother me. But I don't know why it's that way. But then my legs aren't really a problem. I don't like feeling wind on my neck or like my back. I hate that. That'll get me out of a tree stand too. So, on windy days, I use some sort of a wind stop layer, or like on extreme wind, I'll even take a rain jacket. Like I have this, I don't know, I got it at like Dick's Sporting Goods. It's like this, it's like green. It's just like solid green, but it's like the rain won't penetrate it. And it's like super noisy. So I'll actually once I like on a heavy 30 mile an hour wind or 40 mile an hour wind day, I'll take that. I'll put my layers on and then I'll put that on over it. And then I'll put my coat over that. So when you're like moving, you won't hear it. But like that thing is like, it's like a sauna inside there and it keeps the wind off you. So,
well, one of the things, and I've used it, I think I used it 1 year when he was talking about it, and I haven't used it enough to completely vet it to say that it's like, it really works like every time. But one of our Patreons, Robbie, Knox and Hooks Outdoors, I'll give them a shout out. You got to check them out. But he said one of his buddies puts on nitrile gloves underneath and keeps the heat in. And I did it probably 3-4 times, six times maybe tops, and it worked. It was I would say that it was markedly warmer. So it's something to think about. Just
did it get sweaty?
Well, but your hands are warm. I mean, you think about that, your hands do get sweaty, like anyways, but it keeps the circulation going. It keeps the wind off them. It keeps them dry, really like that. So, it did work underneath a light pair of gloves like that. So
I've never heard of that one. That's interesting. I'll try anything now. Like I feel like as a hunter or just in general, like you got to be willing to try new things. Like, so this is like a great idea of something to try because, I feel like if you try new things, like you could learn something new or it's just good to always constantly be learning, So I'll definitely put that on the list.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, because it's like, I feel like, for a long time when you're dealing with gear like that and you're changing it out and you're like, okay, we'll try these are better. This is good. Like, I like this. And, it's easy to like compare and contrast. But it's hard. I feel like after you've done it enough times, like, what you like. And so like right now, like my setup, I feel like is like bulletproof. And so it's hard to like even want to try anything new or like to try anything else because you've just got it dialed in. And like, I would say like when I started this, I still don't, I guess I would say like, I still don't know anything, but like when I knew even less and I was unfamiliar with like the hunting style and like hunting all these different places and doing all this stuff, I felt like I was always like, oh, we'll try this new piece of gear. It looks really neat. And now I just kind of compare everything against like what I am using and like, where are the benefits, to me versus like just staying with what I've got. How do you feel about that? Like with you, like having a channel and like still trying new gear and all of that.
Yeah. So like we talked a little bit about the channel. I started in 2018 and I had one of my best seasons ever. And then I started doing the gear reviews in 2019. And I just wanted to like, at first I was like, well, maybe I could make a video to help somebody. So I'll start like pumping out some gear reviews. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then it's like, you want to try more. And every once in a while, I do buy most of my stuff, but somebody will sling me a saddle or something. They're like, hey, you can do a review. So I started trying more stuff, and I got into like this kind of like revolving door of gear. Like I was trying this, and I'm big on like, I don't want to just like get this product in and like, just like, get it and then throw a YouTube video out on there. Like I might do it as an unboxing, but I really want to take it out in the woods and like try it. And I was doing that for like 3 or 4 years. And it was actually this past season, I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. Like I'm going to stop trying new gear. I know what I have, and I know it works, and I know that it's, extremely efficient. And so this past season, I actually told myself, I'm not going to try anything else. I'm not going to take a different saddle or a different platform or a different tree stand in the woods until I kill a shooter. And I was after 2 particular deer this past year, and it actually took me till November 15th to shoot my target buck, but I didn't try any other sticks, any other stands, and I just focused on what worked and what was efficient. And I tell you what, looking at all the new gear that's coming out, or, just great products, I think next year I might do the exact same thing, because I found that when you really just, you find a system that works and you stick with it, like, and you've heard other guys talk about this in the past, like find your system, practice with it. It makes you more efficient. It makes you more deadly. And it really does. Like, in this past season, like there was no tree that I couldn't get up within 15 minutes, fully set up. And almost every time I could hang that stand without making a sound. Like, and that when I started keying in on some of these bedding areas that were in the swamps or some other areas I was hunting that were really key, because I was running a lot of trail cameras. I was seeing what the deer was doing. There was times where I was setting up on deer and they were really close and they never had a clue I was there. So I think people, not to run out too off topic, but I think people do get kind of stuck in a rut where these guys, there's great marketing out there. Every time you go on Instagram or Facebook, like how often do you see an ad for a saddle company now? Like every time you darn near go on Instagram, like somebody's got a well-placed ad. And it's like, I think a lot of guys, they see that and they're like, oh my God, like, look at this, like, look at that. Like, I should try this. And like, they get in this, like this loop of like, they're so hyper focused on like trying to better their gear, which I'm not saying not to do that, but like eventually you got to stop and say, hey, this is good enough. Let's put some time with it. And like, let's get really efficient with what we have and see if we can, take that to the deer woods and convert on some, big bucks. Yeah, I try not to, I have a saying, and my buddy, Evan Rinke, he says this too, like, I don't know if you ever heard of Elk Shape. He's a guy on Instagram. He's got a really big YouTube channel. He has this thing called always be tinkering. It's a saying. It's like his little slogan, always be tinkering. And I think that's great for somebody like him or me, like that has a YouTube channel and that like has the capacity to like do that and like tinker. But like, I would say 90% of the guys should not be tinkering. Like find a bow that works good for you, that you love, and just become an ace at it. Like shoot it all the time. Don't be changing your sights. Don't be changing your rests. Like get 100% proficient with the gear that you have. And like, you don't need to tinker all the time.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.
But I think some YouTube guys, like, and I guess I'm guilty of it, like, we're always trying to push out content and stuff. And I was always thinking about making a shirt like "Don't be tinkering," because I just think most of the guys should not be messing around. I think a lot of guys. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting because, like, when you were saying that, like, how you wanted to focus on just killing a deer and being like efficient, and then maybe you would switch something up, and like, it was funny, like, that's how I ended up doing the podcast with Jake Downs, because I did a podcast before that said, you know, earn your hunt, and we talked about it, about, you know, waiting until you killed something and then upgrading, you know, and but what I was thinking was, you know, when you were saying that, is if you're in the tree or in the woods or in the truck thinking about, like, what's my next move with, do I need to switch my saddle? Like, do I need a different ropes? Do I need to do this? Well, you're not focusing on the deer and the hunt and, like, trying to outsmart this deer. You're trying to, you know, micromanage, like, the shit that's in your truck, like, that doesn't really matter, like, when the rubber meets the road. And, you know, that's kind of like where I fall with, like, the bows, and, like, it was fun to shoot a deer with a longbow this year, because it's like, people have been killing these things with rocks and sticks and whatever for that many years. Like, some of it is, like, gotta be the hunter and not the gear. So I just think that, you know, there's so much of, like, me personally has not been, like, time in the woods, like, figuring it out. It's always like overthinking a lot of stuff. You know, you look at all the maps and you look at all the trucks and you look at this and the wind and this stuff. It's like, sometimes you just got to get out there, find the sign, and set up, you know. That's what's more important. There
was a couple of years ago, I remember distinctly, like, there was a time I went on a hunt and I was standing at the back of my truck, and I used to have, like, my tree stand set up, and then I'd have my saddle set up. And then I think I had, like, 2 or 3 other platforms and, like, another set of sticks. And I was just staring at it going, like, why do I have all this shit in my truck right now? Like, I can only use one. Like, I'm not out of state. You know, I do hunt like an hour and 20 minutes from my house. But, like, you know, if I was out of state, maybe I would have, like, a tree stand system and, like, a saddle system, like a backup system. But, like, why do I have, like, 4 sets of everything out here? Like, I'm just asking for it to, like, get stolen out of my truck or something. And it's just like, dude, you got to, like, focus on, like, what is most important to you? Like, are you a gear guy? And, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you just want to go out and, like, take pictures and, like, you know, maybe see some deer, maybe you shoot a couple deer, maybe you get lucky, shoot a big one. But, like, are you a gear guy, or, like, are you there to, like, what are your goals? Like, for me, like, I've shot a lot of small deer and I've shot a lot of medium deer, and, like, I want to be at the higher level now. Like, I want to shoot wall hangers. You know, they're not booners, but, you know, I want to shoot good Michigan public land deer. So, like, you know, I try to, like, limit my gear. Like, I try to, like, by, like, September, like, I'm still making videos, but, like, I'm more focused. Like, the shift, like, I've really shifted in my head to, like, okay, no more messing with gear, no more tinkering. Like, let's just go out and, like, focus on finding a good buck or 2 and trying to kill them. And then once gun season comes, like, everything kind of gets messed up in Michigan once guns, you know, season starts. So then if you want to take out a different saddle platform or, like, whatever, you know, play with some camera arms, like, that would be a good time then. Like, I feel like you can get away with more in gun season. Like, you don't have to be as quiet, like, just because, you know, you can reach out and touch a deer at 100 yards if needed. So that's kind of my philosophy. And, like, this year, like, I'll probably mess around with a bunch of gear this summer, like, try a bunch of new stuff. I think it's good to evolve and to learn. Like, I got a bunch of 1-sticks. I'm going to be playing with those here soon. And just, you know, I don't know if I'm going to hunt with them. I might not. I might love them, but, like, I'll make a decision, like, probably in August or September. Like, this is what I'm going to run, and I'm going to stick with it until, you know, I get my target down, and then I'll play around.
So for you, and I think probably everybody that's listening is like, all right, so he said he's got his system, like, dialed in. Like, what is your system? Like, when you're out hunting, like, what is your go-to from, like, I mean, do, like, a audio, like, pack dump as far as, like, what your setup is?
So yeah, the last 2 years, well, really last 4 years, I've been using that Lone Wolf Custom Gear 0.5. It's a super tiny stand. Most guys hate it because it's so small and it's not very comfortable. They sell a tall post with it, so a 22-inch post. And then I recently went from I had the really small seat, and then I went up to the medium seat. Now I got the large seat. So it does add a little weight, but like the whole stand is like 6.5 pounds or something. That's just for the stand. And then I ran several different sticks for years. I experimented with a lot. Last year I ran 3 14-inch Lone Wolf Custom Gear compact doubles. Those are the ones where you don't have to fold or anything. Like they're just ready to go. They're almost like B sticks, but they're really small. And I ran 3 of those with cam straps. I've tried daisy chains. I've tried USA Pros. And there's nothing against any of that stuff, but I just find like with the cam straps, I think they're the quickest, the easiest, and the quietest for me to set up. Nothing against USA Pros or anything Amsteel. I know a lot of guys love that, but so when I get to the tree, well, let me keep going. So I have those 3 sticks, and then I take 2 3-step aiders from Backwoods Mobile Gear. I have they're like 15-inch step-to-steps. I take a 3-step version. I take 2 of them, and because I have those double-step sticks, I hang them right on the stick. So I put those in my pack. They always go in the same pocket every hunt. So when I get to the tree, I'll look at the tree. Obviously, I want to hunt this tree. I decide, all right, this is where I think my stand should be. I wear a saddle on my always. I have the TX5 Minimalist 2.0. That is the saddle I run. It's like a hybrid saddle. You can roll it up and bunch it up. And I have one little saddlebag off the left side. It's a Latitude Method dump pouch. It's the bigger pouch. I like the bigger one because I can fit my bow holder and both of my ropes in there and all in one spot. So it all fits on my left side, and it always goes in and out the same way. I keep the bow holder on the bottom, and then I have my tether, and then my linesman's on top. I have my linesman's girth hitched to my left saddle loop, and then I'll approach the tree. I've used several different backpack straps on the tree stand. I had the TX5 ones for a while, and I recently went to the Latitude ones. Those are really awesome, just super comfortable. So I'll get to the stand, the tree. I always if I can, I'll try to scrape the leaves and make it bare earth right under me. And then I'll lay my stand down. I have a backpack on there. It's called a Lone Wolf Custom Gear Wolf Pack. It's like a pack designed for tree stand hunting. And it's got all these features to it that I can kind of explain in a minute that make it easier. But I'll take the pack off, and then I put that to the side. And then I take my 3 sticks off. It's just one strap that holds them. They pop off. I don't have to fold any steps or anything. And then I'll take those steps and I'll kind of scatter them around. And then I'll hang my first stick as high as I possibly can hang it. So I'll put the cam strap on, and I'll put that on there as high up as possible. And that's because I'll put that 3-step aider on, and I can get about 7.5 foot out of that first stick. So from then I take and I put my stand on my back. I do use 2 bow ropes, which probably people are going to hate me for saying this, and they are paracord. I just found that paracord just works the best for me. I have 2 carabiners on the end of them that are wrapped in stealth strips, but they're both rated carabiners. So if I ever needed to, if I ever somehow forgot a carabiner, you could use them, but they do have the wire gate. So it's not you'd want to, but so then I'll take my 2 sticks that are left over, and I'll hang them off each side, left and right. And then I'll take that I wear Kuiu attack pants that have cargo pockets. So I'll put my rest of my straps in the cargo pockets. And then I take that other 3-step aider, and I put it in my right cargo pocket. And then I'll go and I'll have my sticks hanging off, my bow's tied off, and then my bag's tied off. I'll have paracord that I'll tie both off, and I put them on both sides. So then it's coming off on each sides of me. And then I make sure I'm not going to get hung up on anything or caught up on anything. And then I will ascend the tree. And my goal is to go up the tree one trip. I want to go up one time because I want to limit my noise. I want to limit my movement, especially if it's dark. I don't want my flashlight going all over the place. I do have a headlamp that I'll put on, if I go in blind in the morning, I'll try to put it on low when I go up the tree. I don't run any different colors or anything. It's just white. On the lowest setting. And then my goal going up is to make no noise. So go up, complete silence. I'll go up, I'll hang, I'll go up that first stick. And then when I'm standing on that top step of that stick, I'll hang my next stick as high as I possibly can, hang that aider. Once you kind of learn how to use those aiders, I have no problem. For a couple years ago, I was pretty overweight and like out of shape. Like I was pushing like 280. I had no problem using those aiders. And then once I get up to that third stick, I'll try to hang that high, and then I'll hang my stand. Typically I'll hang my stand depending on where I think the deer are going to come from. Now, because I hybrid hunt out of that 0.5 with the saddle, I often will put the tree between me and the deer, or I always try to have my strong side, so I can make a strong side shot. Once I get up, I hang the stand. Then I have my linesman rope. Obviously, I've been using it the whole time. I will actually tie my tether off, and I will clip into my saddle bridge before I step on the stand. So I'll double my safety, and then I'll get on the stand. I'll set everything up. I have my bow holder in my saddle in the pack. So I'll take that bow holder, I'll hang it up, and then I'll usually, if it's in the morning and it's still dark, I'll pull my bag up first. But if it's like on an afternoon hunt, I always pull my bow up. I have like this anxiety, like, because I've gotten like burned when I've been like climbing up a tree and like there goes target buck. Like it's happened several times. So like I have this anxiety where like I got to get up at the tree and I got to have my bow. So I get up, I have my release clipped on. I'm shooting a handheld now, and then I hang it. I'll knock an arrow, take the quiver off, hang it, and like I'm ready to go. And then I'll pull my pack up, hang the pack. That wolf pack has got a feature where it's got a built-in hook, so you can actually put it on the tree and make sure it's out of the way. So if I have to shoot on this side of the tree, I'm good. And then I'll hang my camera arm, GoPro, all that stuff. I really don't take too much more in the woods. Like I take some clippers, maybe a little saw. I do take like my gutting knife and gutting saw in with me every hunt. Some people say it's bad luck or you don't need that extra weight. Like I have the Havilon Piranta and Barracuda. They weigh nothing. Like I take a couple gloves, and then my tags. I always have some water, and then, if it's just like a 4 or 5 hour hunt, like I'll take a can of chew. Like I don't need a snack or anything. Like I'll just take some chewing tobacco. And, if I'm doing an all day sit, then I'll take maybe some extra water, a sandwich. That's one of the things that I don't know, like guys, maybe some guys know this or maybe some guys don't, but like, you don't need to take like a whole meal out there. Like most of us have enough reserves where you're not going to die. Like, unless you have like diabetes or something, like you could be like a power bar, like you'll be fine all day. Like you don't need it. So, that's one of the other things is like, I don't take a lot of food. Unless like I'm trying to be funny or something. Like one year I took my jet boil and I was jet boiling from the tree stand opening day. Cause I was like, I'm going to have some fun out here. I'm going to cook breakfast in the tree stand. But, the one thing that I will say about my gear, like especially last year, is like everything's the same. Like everything goes in the same pockets, like to the T. Like my light goes in a certain pocket, my headlamp, like my carabiners, I figure eight them when I'm done hunting, so they're all ready to go. Like I try to put everything back to the T every time. And it's all about efficiencies and like just like the more you get efficient with your gear, whether you could be a saddle setup, it could be a climber setup. Like as long as you practice and like get a consistent like rhythm and like, an order of operations where you do your stuff, like that's to me the best thing you can do.
And I think that's the, like, we talk about like knowing your equipment and like practicing with your bow, like knowing, where your pins, like my brother-in-law, he had my old bow and, he's doesn't hunt that much. Frickin' missed the biggest buck of his life because he didn't understand how the slider sight worked. Multi-pin slider. He dialed it to 40 and used the top pin, and no, the bottom pin is the one, and what are you going to do? But yeah, that like when you start to switch around your gear, when you start to change things up, and then it's like, oh, where did I put this? Where's this? And I'm probably like the worst at that. Like I'm not, like if you saw like what I'm sitting in right now, it's just like, it's like a gear closet exploded. and like, this is like, oh yeah, I'll use this. But I also feel like I'm proficient enough with most of it to, I could hunt out of it. Like, that's why, like, for saddles, like, I could hunt out of any saddle. You can make any saddle comfortable. It's all just like these little idiosyncrasies between them, and like these little like niche selling points and things that, you know, maybe the marketing makes you think that you need, when, you know, essentially we're not reinventing the wheel here with like a lot of stuff. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about too, is like, where do you think like the gear is going? Because I mean, I feel like outside of like some materials, and I think like you got the, you know, I guess you could say like, you know, the machined stands and the stuff that you're talking about, you know, was a big deal, you know, and you know, so was the cast aluminum that we talked about before. And then, you know, we got Latitude with the molded carbon type stuff, and now you've got you know, both the bows and what Trophy Line's doing with that Hyperlight, like that Magnite stuff. And I think I asked them, and they didn't give me a good answer about like if you could use that as like a fire starter, like if it was like the magnesium rims that would like, if they started on fire, they never would stop. You know, they just burn right down to the ground,
like that has the batteries or whatever.
Yeah. But like we're seeing some like changes in like materials and stuff like that, and you know, Austin from Genesis 3D, he had just mentioned in one of our groups that like he went to a like 3D printing convention, and he's like, the materials that are coming out that you can 3D print stuff now is becoming pretty wild, and you know what their strength and tolerances are. But like for you being, you know, kind of plugged into the gear world and stuff like that, like what do you think is next on the horizon?
I don't know. I think you hit the nail on the head good though. Like cast aluminum, like when those came out, you know, looking back, I didn't know about them at the time. Like that was like one of those moments that changed things. And then like the machined aluminum, like I think it changed it again. And then like the popularity of saddle hunting, and, you know, looking at some of the first platforms that came out, they weren't very, you know, they were pretty heavy. And then, you know, like Tethered came out with the Predator that kind of changed things. Like there's always like an iconic like stuff that came out. Like I think that like the TX5 Lone Star, like that saddle was pretty iconic. Like, cause I used to have like hip pinch in some of my stuff. And like, that was the first time where I went out for a hunt, like 5-6 hours, and never had hip pinch like that. They have that hip pinch system in there. You know, seeing like Tethered come out with those one sticks, like they had some issues out of the gate, but those really, I mean, those are like a pound each. That was pretty crazy. Then, you know, Latitude's polymer or carbon infused, whatever, those really, again, super affordable too. Like I've talked to Alex, like they sold like the amount of sticks they've sold is just crazy. I don't know. I guess I think that like some companies like, are going to try to continue to push the envelope as far as like cutting weight. I don't think the materials are going to probably change too much more unless somebody invents something like a better grade aluminum that's maybe more affordable. Like I know there's better grades of aluminum out there, but like the prices, like for like high tensile strength aircraft grade aluminum, like it just keeps getting crazier. You know, like could somebody make a tree stand or a platform out of titanium? Like, sure, you probably could, but it's going to cost thousands. You know, there's not really a market for that. You know, like I always joked around, like if I ever hit the lottery, like I would go make a titanium tree stand. Like I would just pay somebody to do it. Like it would only be like one for me, but like a 4-pound tree stand, you know, with like as big as like a 1.0 or something, or like a Lone Wolf, like the original, like I think, yeah, like a new material has to come out, or like maybe like if you could get like somebody like really brilliant to like.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. From daily routines to life-changing adventures, the Toyota Grand Highlander is spacious, powerful, and ready to take on life's grand challenges. Advanced safety features and innovative technology give you confidence for whatever life throws at you. And it's available in a hybrid Nightshade Special Edition, which includes sophisticated gloss black exterior accents and 20-inch black alloy wheels. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
Like a scientist or like an engineer and say, hey, like, how would you climb this tree? Like, figure out, I want you to tell me a way to climb this tree and make it super light, but super safe and like be repeatable and don't make any noise. And like somebody that's never seen a climbing stick or a tree stand or anything, like show me what you do. Like maybe something like that comes along. Like I feel like there's gotta be like a different way to climb a tree that's nobody's thought of yet.
Well, and you know, I feel like if you're going to answer that question, like scientifically or like logically, like I think the answer exists, but we always try to like engineer gadgets to fix like skills problems, right? Because like, you know, arborists have been doing it forever and they just climb up the ropes.
Yeah.
You know, but like, you know, that's hard to do in the dark. Like, you know, I guess if you were asking like the scientists, if you were asking Chat GPT, like you'd have to put that in one of your prompts to say, hey, you have to be able to do this in the dark to somewhere that you haven't been able to scout out before. Because I mean, realistically, that seems like a pretty efficient way, but you have to have a skill, you know, and you have to be able to, you know, trust yourself to do it.
Yeah. And everybody's different. Like, I'm a big guy and like I've always been heavier, but like I climbed so many trees when I was a kid, and I really think that has a lot to do with it. Like I can climb pretty much anything. Like I don't know what, like I don't get tired when I climb. Like I do a lot of arms, but like I'll climb on the sketchiest. I've gotten into some trees as like there's no way. I'm surprised I'm still here. Like I don't know how I didn't fall out and stuff. And I think yeah, there's a big difference, like, for somebody that climbed trees as a kid versus somebody that hasn't. Like, I've had buddies that are, like, they could barely go up the climbing sticks. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just climb. And they're just like, it wasn't even like they were scared. They just didn't know how to do it. So, yeah, I definitely think that's something you'd have to consider.
Yeah. But I feel like like I said, we're trying to create something out of, like, to replace like skills. Like everybody wants everything to be fast. Everything wants everything to be easy. You know, we've got, you know, thermal scouting drones. We've got, you know, on demand cell cameras now, like where you can just like turn it on and say, hey, I want a picture now. I want to go live feed here.
Yeah.
You know, we've got this mapping. We've got everything. And I kind of like fear the like technology end of it being like, I don't know. I feel like I personally would rather do things I'd rather kill a smaller buck a hard way than kill a bigger buck the easy way. Or like, you know, and it's, you can kind of liken it to the high fence or like guides or anything like that. But I just think, I don't know. And I'm afraid that that's the way that gear is trending. Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely a problem. The drone thing is scary. I've been pretty cool with like trail cameras and then like even cell cams. Like I'm a user of both, and I love cell cams because like I can't be out there all the time. Like I got a family, I got kids. Like I got an hour and 20-minute drive, you know, hour drive. So like cell cams to me are awesome. You know, they come at a price. Like it's expensive, especially when you're running like a lot of them. And then like people still mess with them, especially on public, or like the squirrels, like they mess up. So you still have to go out there anyway. But like, I'm pretty tolerable to that. But like the drone stuff really does scare me because like, I feel like if you're using a drone to scout with thermal camera, like that's an advantage that is so much bigger than a cell cam, in my opinion. And people might not agree, and that's fine. But like, I'm all for like being able to use them for recovery. I think that's great. But then like, it kind of like they wash together, and like, I think the DNR, even especially Michigan and other states, they don't know how to handle it. Like, how do we allow them to go look for their deer, but they're not going to take advantage of it? Because, you know, there's always some scumbag that's going to take advantage of it. It's with everything. Somebody's always going to try to take advantage of it, whether they just want to look cool at the local bar because they shot the biggest buck, or maybe they got a YouTube channel. Like, I feel like we always take it too far. And maybe with the cell cams, the on-demand pictures, maybe that's a little too far. Drones with thermals. Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's been some guys out there that have already like had it happen, but like just even like not a thermal drone, just a regular drone. Like if I've heard and read like on Facebook, like where guys will be hunting and someone will see their truck and they'll throw up their drone and go try and figure out where they're hunting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and if you did that with a thermal drone, it would be much easier to pinpoint the spot, you know, like that. And I think that's where it gets even weirder, because you're not even talking about like the animal. You're just talking about like, oh, well, this guy's hunting here, so I'm just going to go steal a spot. You know, that's to me worse than like going and using it to find the animal.
I never even thought about that. Like, I haven't had any like drones. Like, I've never saw a drone. I've saw them like in my backyard. I think my neighbor has one, and we were shooting like pistols one day, and it flew over, and it pissed me off because I'm like, come on, dude. Like, I know why you're watching us, but like, I've never had it happen in the woods. Like, and yeah, I mean, if you live out by where I hunt, you know, like and you're on private land, but you're right next to public, like you know, you could be like, oh, I'm just flying my drone, but you're looking out in the public. I don't know, man. I think the drones, I don't like the drones. I'm not. I think, well, I mean, the only thing I would ever take a drone for is last year when I killed that big buck. Like, we were a mile back from the truck in like knee deep water. Like, I was sitting there like dying, and I had like the flu or something. It was horrible. But I was like, man, if I could just have like a drone that would just come down and I could just hook some chains to this deer and get it out of here, like, I would be forever thankful. Like, I would have spent like $200 to do that.
Yeah. I mean, but again, like circling back all the way to the beginning, like that's the stuff that you remember. Like, you know, that's the stuff that, you know, you were sick, like everything that happened and getting it out of there, like the things that make it hard make the memories, and it like, you know,
it's true.
You and all the guys that were there, like it just galvanizes all of that. And, you know, that to me is like what it's all about. And it's fun, you know, to have discussions about gear, and it's fun to, you know, I guess like everybody wants to shoot a big buck. But I don't know. Like I feel like I'm a very like an outlier in this, but I think it has a lot to do with like the way that I was brought up. Like we were never chasing big bucks. We were just shooting deer. We were really just before I met my wife, like we were just killing does with rifles and, you know, just having a deer camp. Like you went up to deer camp to get your deer and hang out, you know, it was to get away. And, but my father-in-law kills everything that walks by. Like he doesn't, you know, he's not very picky at all. And it's always been just exciting to shoot a deer, and he gets so excited. And so like that, being in that environment, you can't not have that. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm like an outlier, because a lot of people are like, I just got to kill a bigger buck, or like there's bigger ones on camera. And I'm like, you can have your cameras, you can have all that. Like, I just want to go out there and have fun and share it with people, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. Like I'm at the stage in my life where I'm like targeting bigger animals, because that's just what I'm interested in right now. On October 30th this past year, I shot a smaller buck. I didn't actually recover him. I single lunged him, But I was like, in Michigan you get 2 tags, and I was like, man, I'm like, this is a pretty nice buck. Like, he's not like one of the guys I'm after, but like, I'd be happy to put a tag on him. And, I have 2 tags, so screw it. Unfortunately I didn't recover them, but I'm just more like, whatever excites me. I talked to, I think before the podcast, I was hanging out with Ryan Regan and Josh Arbogast. We do like this public land challenge every year. And, because it's Michigan, we have 2 tags. Like I've always, said, like, whatever deer excites me and walks by, I'm trying to shoot it, so, and those camps are so much fun because, we work together and, we come back after the hunt and, we talk about what we saw. Like we team tag some areas, and like, the one year Ryan Regan, he shot a buck with his longbow. It wasn't a huge buck, but it was awesome because it was like you said, it was like that deer camp experience. I think there's a lot of people that they don't experience that anymore because of the way things are. And it's too bad because I think guys would really enjoy that.
So you mentioned a couple of things in there. And one, I want to say, like, being the, Michigan Great Outdoors and talking about like, well, hell, we're in Michigan, we got 2 tags, I'm going to shoot, whatever, and we'll save the other one for a big buck or however it plays out. Like, where do you fall on that? Having now, you said you'd hunted out of state a couple times, and seeing the states around us be 1 buck states, kind of bigger buck, more opportunity for like age class deer. But you did mention the benefits of being able to shoot 2 bucks in Michigan if you want to. Like, where do you fall on that? Like, if Michigan Great Outdoors, if Jace had the hammer and he said, all right, we're making this into law for my boys, for the future of Michigan hunting. We're making Michigan hunting great again. What are you doing?
I think I'd love to try the 1 buck state. I'd love to try it. I don't know. It's hard to tell if it would work here because of supposedly the deer populations we have and that we're not harvesting enough deer. From what I follow, we're terrible in Michigan at harvesting does. You can look at the yearly harvest reports, and we're killing, I think it's like twice as many bucks than does every year. So that's totally whacked. We need to fix that. So I think if we went to a 1 buck state, I think they should, maybe give, like, you buy 1 buck tag and you get like 2 doe tags for like a better price or something. And like, I think the DNR could do a better job, like educating, like why it's good to have a better buck doe ratio. Like, why is this going to be beneficial for us all? Like, yes, we could be like Ohio, we could be like Indiana or Iowa eventually. Like, but I think I don't know if it's the NRC or the DNR. Like, they just don't seem to regulate the state in a great way. And I think they're kind of lost to what they should do right now. Like, we know we need to shoot more does, but like, how do we get people to shoot more does? And we know we have, like, in, zone 3, which is down here, we have a major issue down here. Like, why are we allowing unlimited does to be taken up here where the land can't support it? But like down here we have, you can shoot 10 does a year as a hunter if you buy all the tags, but there's not a lot of access. So I think it's a multifaceted problem in Michigan. I don't know the answer, but I'd love to try a 1 buck state, like, say, let's try it for 3 years and like, see what happens. Like, what do we have to lose? Like, but at the same time, like, we need to reward or try to push people to shoot does. So that's what I would do if it was my choice.
Yeah, I think I'm on almost the exact same page. I mean, I would say 1 buck in a heartbeat, and you could tell me that we were going to do no bucks for a year or 2 years, and then we're going to see what happens, and I'd take that into consideration too. I think the doe harvest is problematic, and especially somehow changing the culture. And I mean, realistically, like, it starts with you and me and, shooting more does ourselves and telling our kids, like, hey, we're going to shoot some does so that we can, have some big bucks in the future. That I think is like us, because you said like the NRC and the DNR or whatever, but like as hunters, like we need to take ownership too and say like, look, we don't like what's going on. We can do this. And I don't care. I'll shoot small bucks. That's fine with me. But like, I think as a family, like we shot 4 deer here in Michigan and we shot 3 does. So, I mean,
yeah,
I'm all right with that. So
yeah. And it's like, there are a lot of people pushing for that single buck, thing and to shoot more does. And, those people got to do their part too, because I see some of them, they're advocating for that, but they're not shooting any does, or at least they're not posting about it. Like I'm not seeing it. So I agree with you that we should lead by example and practice what we preach. And it happens with, with the youngerns, my kids, like, my oldest, he was 11. It was his second or third year hunting. He got his first deer, a doe, and he was like, he wanted a buck. And he last year he was able to go after a buck because they hadn't changed it yet. And we saw a doe, and I was like, "Are you gonna shoot it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna shoot it." And I'm like, "Sweet," And he shot a doe, and we had a blast. Like does are fun to shoot too. I don't know why people are so like just so focused on bucks. And like I get it, like they're cool, but like there's nothing wrong with if you like deer meat, like does. I think does probably taste better than bucks. So, and kind of going back to like my uncle and, my uncle's in his 60s and his best friend's in his 60s. Like they will not shoot a doe ever. Like they don't even want to talk about it. Like I'll joke with them all the time because they know I shoot a lot of does, and they're just like, dude, like, or I'll say stuff like, you could shoot a doe. They're like, oh, I ain't seen no bucks this year. I'm like, well, there's plenty of does. Why don't you shoot those? Like, they're like, I can't shoot a doe. I'm like, why? Why can't you shoot a doe? And they're like, well, I want to shoot the buck. Yeah, but who cares? Like you just told me that you ain't got no deer meat. Like, why aren't you shooting the doe? You had 10 walk by today. Why didn't you shoot one? And they're just so stuck in their ways. And I love them to death. They're great men, like awesome men, but like they will not shoot a doe. They won't even talk about it. So I don't know if that's just an old timer mentality because back in the day, like that's what they were taught. And it's so ingrained. But like, I was taught that way, and I was able to change. I didn't always shoot does. I didn't start shooting does until I was like 25 or something.
It's funny because like my father-in-law, they never used to shoot does, and now he'll shoot every doe that comes out. But John, and that's my father-in-law's brother-in-law, John's dad would never shoot a doe ever, and it was just like not acceptable. And now that I think about it, like in my dad's basement, he's got this like, like the posted signs that you see, like, and like you think of like what a really old one would look like. This was at the bottom. It says somebody's sportsman's club or something like that. But it says in bold, like big, doe killers stay out, sportsmen welcome. Like that's just the culture back then. It must have been.
Yeah, and it's like, why is that? I mean, I know like a lot of areas, like you couldn't even get a doe tag in a lot of areas, So
well, but I think I don't know, but at that time, and like the same thing, like you could make the argument that like now in today's world with turkeys, like Michigan has like a messed up turkey situation because back in the 80s we didn't have any turkeys, and now at least where I live, you can't drive down the road. I can't go to work without seeing 100 turkeys.
Yeah.
So and we still only get one tag in the spring and one tag in the fall, and all those leftover tags, like, well, we weren't really counting on anybody killing those turkeys anyway. It's not a problem. It's not a thing. And so maybe back when we were doing that doe permit micromanaging, they were actually using harvest numbers and conservation and all that other stuff. And today it's just kind of gotten, out of proportion. But like, I remember that too, where you couldn't get doe permits, and it was, maybe they were trying to build up the deer population, and now we're at a point where we kind of went too far.
Well, yeah. And I don't think they expected the hunter decline that we have. Like, how could you ever like foresee that was going to be an issue. Like you can see year over year, Michigan, like the tags each year, there's less and less tags being sold because they claim there's less and less new hunters. And, you know, I don't really see that where I hunt because it's public and like, you know, it's within 2 hours of Metro Detroit. So like, I don't really see a reduction in hunters. I see probably less kids in the woods, but I still see a lot of guys bow hunting. I think I actually see less guys in the woods during rifle now because I feel like a lot of guys, they have this mentality like, oh, I'm only a bow hunter, which, you know, that's fine. I don't judge anybody. Like you hunt however you want. But like I know so many guys now that only will bow hunt, and they're like, I'm not going to go out there in rifle season. Like I'm a bow hunter. I'm like, shit, I don't care, man. Like I love rifle hunting. Like I absolutely love the simplicity of it, like bringing it back to the roots. So like, but just getting back to like, I feel like I'm not seeing less hunters. So when the DNR says that there's hunting's in a decline or there's less new hunters, I don't see that. I don't know what you think, but.
So I mean, you're talking down to me right now. No, because that's like the way that we are just like, I just haven't bow hunted or haven't gun hunted because of that. Like when the amount of times that I've gun hunted, like the opener or Thanksgiving, because those were usually the times when I would get out, like it was like a war zone, like dangerous, like where I would go, and just wasn't. And you know, I feel like with a bow, you run into a guy on public land, you can move 60 yards, 80 yards, 100 yards, and you're not infringing upon his hunt. But you're not, you know, and out in the rifle zone, you know, like you're not even out of range at that point.
Yeah.
So it's just like a whole nother realm of that. And like for me, like deer camp politics is like why I stopped gun hunting, like at our private property. But it's interesting though, because we like don't usually have a whole lot of guys on here who will say that they love gun hunting and that they really enjoy the season, other than like Kevin Vistison. So like, what is it for like for us who like, you know, we glamorize, romanticize, and, you know, talk down to people who gun hunt. Like I was telling you, the guys that we're filming with this year, you know, one of them missed a turkey at 20 yards today with his bow, and his brother missed the same turkey 3 times with a shotgun. And we're like, you suck, just bring your gun. And he's like, oh, you would say that, like da 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 da. And it's like, so I think like maybe we do like romanticize it here, like with our listeners. So what do you really like about gun season? Like what?
I think it kind of goes back to like how I like me and my uncle for a long time. We would go up north for opening day. Like we would bow hunt hard, and then it was like, all right, let's go up north, like to Pigeon River, Gaylord area, and we would go out gun hunting. It's just like up there, like you can take a rifle and you can go walk all day and never see a hunter. And like, I don't know, there's just like, I like the simplicity of just, you know, taking a bolt action or whatever and just going out and going for a walk, and, you know, you don't have to try to draw down on a deer. You know, I love bow hunting. I love it. And I would I would love to shoot every big buck that I've ever shot with a bow, because I love the up close and personal aspect of it. But like, I don't know, there's just something about gun season when it's like opening day. Like I just get that feeling like, all right, like this buck has given me the slip all season. It's like, now I got that extra advantage. Like, I don't know. It's exciting. Now like in Michigan, we always start on November 15th. I'd love to push that back, because I know like in my area, like once the guns start shooting, like everything gets jacked up. Like the bucks pretty much are already almost nocturnal. And then like that just sets them off to be even more nocturnal unless you're in that little bubble. But yeah, I like the deer camp feel, you know, going up north, you know, you come out from the hunt and you shoot, you know, you might go put a pie plate up or a paper plate up and shoot some rounds. And it's just, I don't know. I've just always enjoyed it. And I don't have anything against guys that want to only bow hunt. I just think it's funny some of the ones that like will say like you're not a man unless you're only bow hunting. Like I don't buy that. You know.
Yeah, no, I was just messing with you. But I do think like a lot of people just like hear all the stuff about bow hunting and bows only and da, and they're like, well, then they feel like in this world of like a dick measuring contest, because everybody shoots a 140 and you know, 100, it's like kind of like what we talked about, like with bows, like 115-inch buck, 110-inch buck, like, oh, you know, that's nothing, you know, should have waited, like all that stuff. Like, that's a great deer. Like, get that out of here. You know, same thing with like bows. Like, if you don't have the newest Matthews or you don't have $1,000, $2,000 bow, well, then, you know, what are you even doing shooting? Like, what are you doing with that thing? Like, I think that's kind of like in that world, if you're already like self-conscious about like, I don't know about this, well, then I can't go out and gun hunt. So it's nice to hear people who just say like, just go out there and have fun and you know, shoot deer. I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to that, but
you know, and there are areas like, especially in gun season, are like a war zone, and I've experienced it a couple times. Now I tend to try to get in swamps during gun season, and I'll go out in a swamp and not see a hunter. Like you might see an orange like a couple 100 yards away in the hardwoods or something, but like you just try to get you know, my whole goal in bow hunting or even deer season in Michigan is just to get away from hunters. So you find those areas where you can get away and where it's plenty safe. But you know, I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed it. Like there's some social media guys, like the bigger celebrity hunters. Like there's a lot of them that are like, well, we're only bow only, you know? And it's just like, I don't care what anybody does. Like if it's legal, like if you want to use a crossbow, like go, if it's legal, go do it. Like I have my personal opinions on like crossbows. Like I don't think, like if you are capable of drawing a bow back, like I don't think you should use a crossbow. But if it's going to prevent you from hunting, and it's if crossbows are going to help get more people in the woods, and we're already on a decline, like I don't care. Like I really don't care. If somebody takes a crossbow out in the woods, like I you know, I might look at him and be like, you probably don't really need that, but like I'm never going to say that to their face. Like I'm not going to judge. Like I might judge you in my mind, like you could be bow hunting right now, but like you have a crossbow, but you're out here. Like I'd rather somebody enjoy the outdoors and use whatever legal method is available.
Yeah, I don't know. Crossbows I think they have a place. I just don't think it's in the hands of an able-bodied man, but that's just my...
I agree too, but you know, like I would never, like I've heard stories of like people getting like berated like online and stuff because they posted a picture of their deer and it was maybe like 140 or something. It was a nice buck, and then like people are just like, you sissy, you shot out with a crossbow, like you have a shoulder problem. It's like, come on, like who cares? Like if it's legal, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think it's easier than shooting archery, but like they still had to get close enough. Like they still had to have the wits about them to pull the trigger. I mean, if it's illegal.
So I think you could change my mind, and maybe, you know, you said you're getting away from like the gear stuff maybe a little bit, and you're getting more into the hunting. Like, you know what the hunting space lacks? It's like a big buck killer that does it on public land with a crossbow. Like that is a big hole in like the market, right? So we were saying like, oh, what's next, and like what's going on, like maybe you could sway me if you were like, you know, I went to Kansas, I boated in, I went back in here, I did a bunch of all-day sits, and I shot this deer with a crossbow. And then you went and did the same thing on public land in Illinois, and the same thing in South Dakota, spot and stalk with a crossbow, and you're not shooting them at 70 yards. You know, you're shooting them at regular bow ranges. Like, maybe I'd be like, I want to see what this guy's all about, because I feel like at that point you're just doing it to like give a middle finger to everybody that says like crossbows are free. You know what I mean?
We definitely
like, I think that would be something where I might say, okay, all right, let's see, because it's funny because my father-in-law, like I talk about, like there was a time like right when it switched over where anybody could use a crossbow, and he's 70, I think this year he'll be like 72, and he was probably 65, something like that, whatever. He got a crossbow and he thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever, and he's still climbing trees, he's still using his climber, he's still doing all this stuff, and he's like, this thing sucks. Because he's like, it's so big, like I've missed a whole bunch of deer, wounded deer. You don't get a follow-up shot, that But I think in the way that I got to that, like just now, where I was saying, like there isn't a guy that's doing that, because like I think of, I would say like what the rifle hunters would be like, the Fuds or the Dickie Moes or like whatever. Like that's what I think of, like the crossbow guy is not like a serious guy. It's just like, dust it off so I can go out and hunt more days. And he's the guy I see. That's the guy that's bringing the bait out when it's illegal. That's the guy that's got the pop-up blind on the field edge. Like in my mind, like that's what I see. So the weapon of choice, like makes me think this guy's like full of shit. Like, you know what I mean? Just doesn't know what he's doing. Like, so if there was a guy that was like really out there, Dan Infalt style, in these swamps, like up to his nipples and cattails and whatnot, like, it might change my mind. Like that guy might say, okay, all right. But
I don't know if there is a guy. I don't know if that person exists. I don't think they do.
Right. Like, so there you go. There's your 2025 challenge, Jace.
I always wanted to do like the, I don't know if you saw it on THP does it, where I think, Jake, he goes to like Walmart and buys like a cheap ass bow and like wears like some overall suit, and like he goes out and he shoots like a doe fawn or something, but like he proves in that video, like you don't have to have the best of everything to like be successful. And I've always wanted to do something like that. Like I have an old compound bow. It was my grandfather's, and like it's old. I don't even know what it's called. It's so old. It's got like plastic wheels and stuff. I thought about taking it up to, I live really close to Adams Archery here in Milan. And I was like, man, I should take it up there and like get it set up and like put some red flannel on one hunt and just like, go try to see if I can kill something with it. I thought that'd be kind of cool to film it or something.
Yeah. I've got a guy we talked to at ATA. He's going through and he's got an old, I think it's a bear whitetail too, but he's went through and got like all the period correct, everything like down to the camo and like the tree stand and everything. And he's going to try and kill like a big deer with it this year. And he's like, it's just going to be fun, but back those same, like, double X75 arrows with some thunderheads or wasps or whatever, from back in the day. So yeah, but I don't know. But so we can wrap this up here. What do you got going on this year? Like which tack are you going to?
So we're going to do Crystal Mountain. We really wanted to go to Boyne, but because it's, the week before with the kids and school and all that, it just didn't make sense. So we're going to do Crystal Mountain. My wife's going again. She went last year, shot 3 days. So she's going to shoot again. Hopefully we're going to try to do some little complicated shoots. Some of the, I can't remember which courses we have. I mean, I think I just got like the easy ones, and then we'll go up in the afternoon on the mountain and shoot some of the harder ones. But we're going to do that tack at Crystal. And then I think there's another shoot, some local shoot here in May I might try to hit. And then I'd really like to do some of those R100s. I've never tried those before. Probably going to do some gear reviews. I'm excited to see some new products this year. I don't know what is going to come out. It seems like there's being a little more hush-hush about some of the new stuff these days. I don't know if you've kind of noticed the same thing, but you used to kind of know what's coming out. And this year, I really don't have a lot of intuition as to what's going to be coming out this year. So I'm sure I'll save a little money to do that, but I probably won't go as heavy on the gear stuff here soon. It's just getting to be too expensive. I try to buy most of my gear to review just so I don't want to be swayed in my videos. I want to give honest opinions. I'll take a saddle here or there from a company and do a review, but like, I try to buy most of my stuff. Like 95% of it I purchase myself. But it's just getting tough, with the economy and inflation, like, YouTube pays, but it doesn't pay enough. And I haven't done the best thing, like trying to do, like I heard you mention Patreon. I haven't tried to do anything like that to try to raise funds to otherwise kind of keep going. But, we'll keep pushing some stuff out there. I wanted to do maybe this year I'll do a little bit more like not educational videos, but like just kind of like more like tips and tricks, like, how to go out and, kill a deer, or like, just different things. Like try to film more of that, like, or maybe the process, like especially with the kids coming up, trying to show like what I'm doing with them as far as hunting. And then obviously turkey season's next week, so I'm going to try to kill a bird. But yeah, just more of the same. Probably try to find a buck this summer. I have maybe one or two I think lived. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to try to find a good target, and then just kind of keep pushing. I've been really focused too the last year or so on like health and fitness. Like I've lost 39 pounds since last year, so that's been like the biggest thing I've noticed is like this past season. Like I hunted pretty hard, and I don't like ever recall there was a day like I feel super fatigued. Like I gave up alcohol. That was a big thing. Like, cause I'd love to get some time, come back from a hunt and have a few beers and like, but I noticed like it was, wearing on me. So I quit alcohol and then lost the weight. And then like last year's season, man, I felt like a kid again. Like I hunted like 7 days straight, and I didn't even feel tired or exhausted or anything. And that really stood out to me. I was like, man, I don't know if this is from the booze or like just losing that weight or eating healthier. So I want to continue that. I'd like to get down to like 225 this year. And I feel like I'll just be like a menace in the woods if I get down to that weight. So that's
awesome.
My year.
What's the channel again? So where can everybody follow along, and definitely do it, even if not just for the memes?
Yeah, so Michigan Great Outdoors on Instagram and YouTube is where I post most things. I have a Facebook page, Michigan Great Outdoors, as well. It does get a little complicated because I have a personal Facebook, which is Jayce Ostrowski, but then like my outdoor Facebook is Pollock Outdoors. But that's where like I'm in the groups, like the Mobile Hunters United group. I'm pretty active on there, and that's under Pollock Outdoors. So, but yeah, man, I'll just be doing the same stuff I'm always doing, just trying to get better each year.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Gear up for the hunt and learn from the best with Deer and Deer Hunting Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Waypoint TV. Tune in every week for expert hunting tips and unforgettable moments in the field. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment. Hit the road for fun and heartwarming fishing adventures with the Real American Road Trip.
I just want to hook up one time. I just need to hook up one time.
Catch the Waypoint Original Series every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the Waypoint TV channel. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment.
I did get a bite. I have gotten a bite. I did feel it.